Alright, welcome to what's probably going to be the last video of the year. Let's make it a good one. November 2021 Blu-ray Editions Part 2, because being behind is splendid! Did I seriously just use the word splendid? Alright, so starting us off would be Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 and Batman The Long Halloween Part 2. I absolutely love the Batman Long Halloween story. Not only is it my favorite Batman story, but it's my favorite comic book story of all time. It's a really good story. And so what it's about is Batman, Commissioner Gordon, and the new district attorney Harvey Dent are trying to find this killer called the Holiday Killer because he only operates on holidays and only kills members of the Gotham City Mafia. And so what ends up happening is a bunch of other villains also get into the mix, like the Joker, the Scarecrow, the Mad Hatter, Two-Face. If you know Two-Face's origin story, you'll know how things turn out for some characters. Poison Ivy, Catwoman, the Penguin, Solomon Grundy, all sorts of DC villains. And so, while this whole story is unfolding over a year, like a very long year, the morality of all three of these gentlemen working to catch the Holiday Killer, Batman, Commissioner Gordon, and Harvey Dent, are their morality is kind of tested because they're asked certain questions among themselves. Questions like, is doing something that extends my legal boundaries justified if it does something to oppose or prevent something worse from happening or something more immoral from happening? Like this. Like, in one scene, Batman and Harvey Dent kind of have to decide if burning a lot of money is bad, if it's mob money that's going to be used to basically enact hits, do more than likely illegal activities, a lot of illegal business dealings is how they got that money. And so you have to wonder, is that justified morally? Not legally, but morally. And so questions like that are what makes The Long Halloween such an interesting story, because it's based a lot around, like, the morality of vigilantism, I don't know, and crime fighting. And I really love how it asks those sort of questions. I think The Long Halloween is a really good story. Now, getting to the movie, it sticks with a lot of those ideas and a lot of those questions of morality, but it deviates from the comics in some very bad ways. And I don't mean just like being a purist. I mean, like, it actually does some things that take some things that the comics geniusly did and then just omits them. For example, in the comic, we find out who the Holiday Killer is, and it's a twist because originally there were a few suspects, and there were two suspects, and one of the suspects died, and the other suspect is someone Batman knows very well. And unfortunately, that kind of puts the guy he knows very well on the spot and makes him really question a lot of things about himself. And so, even then, we find out that the guy who died is actually the killer. We find out he's actually the Holiday Killer, and then we find out that it could have been someone else, but we don't know if it could have been someone else. And so the entire story is a mystery, and I really like that part of the story. I like how it ends, but in the movie, what they do is they take that guy who supposedly died but turned out to be the Holiday Killer. What they did was they murdered him in a way that there's absolutely no way that this guy could have faked his own death, because that's what happened in the book. He faked his own death and then continued to commit these crimes. But in the book, there were, like, no witnesses, nobody to testify, no identifiable bodily features recovered that could have shown that it was the person. In the book, that's what happens in the book. In the movie, they kill that guy off in a way that there's absolutely no way this guy's coming back or that he faked his own death. He gets shot at nearly point-blank range. Batman was there to see the killing. He sees the killer, chased him down, and even saw the murder weapon being used. And then the guy who actually was shot, he falls off a boat and then his corpse gets chopped up by a propeller for a boat. There's no way this guy's coming back to life at all. No way. No way, man. And so they essentially make it so, yeah, we know for a fact that it is not that guy and that it is the guy Batman knows. And so I haven't seen part 2 of the story because I'm not bothering. I already know for a fact who it's going to be, who the holiday killer is now, because it didn't leave much room for, mystery, which is part of the great things about Batman, the mysteries. And also the other problem I had was the animation looks kind of iffy. This is an animated movie, and the way characters move seems kind of weird to me. I don't know. It's just something that seems a bit uncanny about the way they move. I think if you want to see a movie like The Long Halloween, don't watch The Long Halloween movie, the kind of mediocre animated one we were just talking about. Watch The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is very similar to The Long Halloween in that there's a lot of outcomes that are similar to The Long Halloween that happen to characters in The Dark Knight. There are a lot of characters who are recurring in The Long Halloween and The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan actually admitted to really loving the Long Halloween comic. And it asks those same questions of morality, like, is overstepping your legal boundaries acceptable when you're trying to prevent something worse from happening to more people? Next is Bohemian Rhapsody. So here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of Queen. And so I know a lot of diehard Queen fans were offended at how bad this movie was, or how historically inaccurate it was. But since I'm not a big fan of Queen, I don't care. Because I don't do the research to fact check this sort of thing. On the other hand, if I see a documentary about, say, or not a documentary, a biopic movie about the Beatles, I'll be mad if they get something wrong. But I don't pay attention to Queen's history to bother. But I'm not a fan of Queen per se. I like some of their mainstream hits, what is there? Somebody to Love, Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions. I really hate Bicycle Race. That's a terrible song. I don't know. I just don't like it. Yeah, I like those. There's some other I like. I just can't name them at the moment. Bohemian Rhapsody as a song, though, I'm sorry, but I wasn't a fan. It's 6 minutes long. Don't get me wrong. I'm fine with songs being long, like Freebird, American Pie was good, but Bohemian Rhapsody, it's undanceable. I really have never heard myself whistling the tune to Bohemian Rhapsody. And for me, I just like songs that are catchy. That might make me musically shallow, but so be it. But Bohemian Rhapsody, not a fan of the song, I'm sorry. But the movie was alright. I think there are some parts that could have been better. I think this movie could have been R-rated because Freddie Mercury was the type of guy to tell his audience to F off. There are videos you can find of him literally just saying F off to audiences listening to Queen. And that was a part of his personality. So why would you make this movie PG-13 and then make the only use of the F word on Freddie effing Mercury? And then that's it. You could have used it a lot more if you just made this movie rated R, because PG-13 movies are only allowed to use the R word, the F word once. PG-13 movies are only allowed to use the F word once. But R-rated movies, you can use them freely, man. You should have made it rated R. But what I mainly like about this movie, and the main reason I bought it on 4K, is because of that final scene where they reenact the Live Aid performance from Queen. Stellar scene. I really like that scene because they put a lot of effort, work, thought into recreating this scene as best as they can. Look at the original performance, like back to back, or even side to side with the Bohemian Rhapsody version, it is surprisingly accurate. And I really liked that. I loved that scene. So next up is The Revenant. Haven't seen it, but I want to because I like Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a good actor. Up next is The Adjustment Bureau. So what this movie is about is Matt Damon is this guy running for senator, and then he meets this lady played by Emily Blunt, and he falls in love with her. And then so there's also this group of people called the Adjustment Bureau, and so what they do is they make sure everything goes to plan. Ergo, it's implied to be written by God. The plan is implied in the movie to be written by God. And so basically these guys are trying to regulate the world to make sure everything goes according to plan. And one thing that they need to make sure happens is that Matt Damon does not fall in love with Emily Blunt. And that's the movie, so they kind of have to fight to be in love. And I like that. I like this movie. It has a bit of everything. It has some drama, some romance, sci-fi. It's a bit of a political thriller because Matt Damon's running for senator. But I really like this movie. I think it was a really good movie. There are a lot of parts to like about it. And also, if you're a fan of sci-fi, you'll probably like this because it's based on a story written by Philip K. Dick. Now, Philip K. Dick also wrote the short story that Minority Report was based on, and the book that Blade Runner was based on. So I have a feeling you might like The Adjustment Bureau. And also, one thing, in this movie, like, the discussion of free will is brought up a lot. And then, like, a member of the Adjustment Bureau confirms, like, we let you have free will for a bit, and then you brought us 2 world wars. Luckily, we took over during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So that we saved you from annihilating yourselves. So that just proves one thing. It didn't take regulation. It didn't take any sort of interference from cosmic forces to make sure that Woodrow Wilson was a bad president. I'm kidding, but not really. I'm not trying to get too political, man. I just wanted to make that joke. Next up is The Other Guys. So, The Other Guys is interesting. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I enjoyed it, is what I'll say. I enjoyed The Other Guys and nothing more than that. I think this is an alright movie. Will Ferrell is alright. And this is directed by Adam McKay, who is an alright director. I don't hate him or anything, but if you want to see a movie directed by Adam McKay and starring Will Ferrell, don't watch The Other Guys. Either watch Talladega Nights or watch Anchorman. I love both of those movies more than The Other Guys. But it is a fun buddy cop sort of movie. I think if you're looking for an action comedy that's more of a comedy than an action movie, The Other Guys is fun. Don't get me wrong, the one thing I will say about this movie is it's very funny. But I don't love it, I just think it's funny, and that's all it is. It's a funny movie. So yeah, next up is Zero Dark 30. Didn't see it, but I want to. So next up is Eddie the Eagle. I really liked Eddie the Eagle. It has Taron Egerton playing Eddie Edwards. And he's like this ski jumper, or he wants to be this ski jumper, and he wants to join the Olympics. It's his dream ever since he was a kid to be in the Olympics. And so it has that very heartwarming feel that you need to a sports movie. And he's also getting trained by the coolest man on the planet, Hugh Jackman. Well, no. Is Hugh Jackman the coolest? Really, Lorenzo? What about Arnold Schwarzenegger? That guy's awesome. But yeah, Hugh Jackman, super, super cool in this movie. Like, just check out this clip. that is not the coolest thing you could ever get out of ski jumping. Like, I really didn't expect to enjoy a movie about ski jumping this much. But Eddie the Eagle was really everything I wanted in a movie. It was funny, it was enjoyable, it was heartwarming. It's a great movie. I really recommend seeing Eddie the Eagle because it's a really good movie. And also, I'm out of the two movies I'm really getting into, it's sports movies and political thrillers. I don't know. I think that's just me becoming an old man. I don't know. But if you have any recommendations for sports movies or political thrillers, recommend them to me. Send them my way, man. I would love to hear them. I want to see more. But out of all the sports movies, Eddie the Eagle is a really great one. So next up is Man Up. I haven't seen this movie, but I want to because it has Simon Pegg in it. Simon Pegg's a great actor. I think he's pretty underrated. He was in Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End. I think his best performance was in The World's End. But yeah, I want to see Man Up. Anyway, next up is The Conjuring. Weird thing about this, I saw this in my Spanish class this year. Like, I'm in this Spanish class. We watched some interesting movies in there. We saw Pan's Labyrinth, which is gratuitously violent. I've seen it already, so I didn't really care. We saw Book of Life, which was understandable. We saw The Conjuring. We saw a Gabriel Iglesias show. Technically, that didn't have anything to do with school. We just had to do that because our school supposedly got a gun threat, and then no one was showing up. And so we just kind of had to roll with it, and it was just a chill day. It was a great day. But anyway, and the other movie that we watched in there was, did I already say The Conjuring? We watched The Conjuring in there. And also we watched this really, really terrible Spanish movie called No Manches Frida. What the heck was that movie? It was by far one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but we never finished it, and so I'm invested. I'm hooked. I want to find out how the movie ends. It was so stupid. But The Conjuring, I think this was a really clever horror movie. I cannot say horror. Horror. I just say horror. But The Conjuring was really clever. I really liked it. I think it's worth your time if you like horror movies, and even if you don't, watch it anyway, because The Conjuring, it's really good. It was really scary, too. It was super scary. But yeah, it was a great movie. I really enjoyed The Conjuring. Enjoyed isn't the right word. It's more of, I liked the idea of The Conjuring, because I did not love getting scared. That movie scared the heck out of me. Next up is Remember the Titans. I really like this movie. Denzel Washington gives a great performance. And I also like... So this is a football movie, and I really like the camaraderie between all the football players on the team of this movie. And also, we get to see young Ryan Gosling. Young Ryan Gosling. I love me some young Ryan Gosling. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just like Ryan Gosling as an actor. Anyway, Remember the Titans. It's a good movie. This takes place in, like, the 70s, during the time a lot of racial integration laws were being passed. And so, you have this, storyline about how a lot of people are kind of opposing, basically, desegregating schools. And so, what I like is this kind of shows how all these guys playing the sport just kind of eased a lot of racial tensions in that town and between each other. And so it created a really, like, realistic and lived-in feeling and authentic team among everyone in the movie. I really liked Remember the Titans. I thought it was a really good movie. Yeah. So next up is You've Got Mail. I could care less about You've Got Mail. I have no, like, wish to see it. I don't want to see it, like, badly, but if I ever get to the point where I will see it, I will see it. But mainly, what I love about this is... The Shop Around the Corner! Hey! You saw me review that movie. I love The Shop Around the Corner. I reviewed it, I gave it an A+, I posted the video, and I got a copyright claim on it, even though I'm legally allowed to put clips of The Shop Around the Corner in a review of The Shop Around the Corner, according to fair use laws. I'm still angry about that. I appealed the copyright claim, and then Warner Brothers got back to me and said, no, we still think this is in violation of copyright, and we're not gonna get rid of the copyright claim, and now you can't monetize your video. I'm mad about this, okay? I'm mad about this. Anyway, you've got mail. I have no intention of seeing it, but if you want to see my thoughts on The Shop Around the Corner, you should go see my review. I reviewed it. I thought it was a really great movie. I really enjoyed that movie. So next up is Leatherheads. This has really negative reviews, but I don't get why. I really liked Leatherheads. I thought it was an enjoyable movie. I think George Clooney in this movie, he directed it and he stars in it. He was at his George Clooneyest. Like, George Clooney always plays that, like, slick kind of bandit-ish guy, like, who has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. When he's at his most George Clooneyest is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Leatherheads. I think Leatherheads was a really good movie. It's another sports movie. So what it's about is, it's like during the time where there wasn't like any rules or official regulation over football. And so it was like 1920s football. And also, so George Clooney is like trying to legitimize, professional football. And so in order to do that, he hires this college football, or this high school football player, played by John Krasinski, and the two kind of get involved with this reporter who's following them to try and get a good story. And so that kind of creates tensions between George Clooney and John Krasinski, who have really great chemistry in the movie, by the way. Both of them are really funny. And overall, I think Leatherheads is a really good movie, and if you want to see, I really like Leatherheads. I would highly recommend checking it out because it's really funny and a really good football movie. And if you like movies about like classic football in the in like 1920s, I would recommend checking out the movie Horse Feathers. That's a pretty good movie with the Marx Brothers. It's a fun movie. Next up is the final sports movie in this stack, Trouble with the Curve, with Clint Eastwood. I don't really love this movie. I enjoyed it. I thought Clint Eastwood gave a good performance. I thought Justin Timberlake gave a great performance. I'm starting to like Justin Timberlake. But I think if I were to see a movie about Clint Eastwood being a crotchety old man with issues with his family, I'm not going to watch Trouble with the Curve. I'm going to go see Gran Torino. I love me some Gran Torino. But yeah, Trouble with the Curve, it's alright. It's a fun movie. Amy Adams is alright in here. Justin Timberlake is pretty good. Clint Eastwood's really good as usual. But I think it's a fun enough movie. I loved it, didn't enjoy it. So next up is City Lights, with Charlie Chaplin. I love Charlie Chaplin. I dressed up for him as Halloween, and some of my friends still think I dressed up as Hitler. Like, that's why I had to change my YouTube profile picture. It used to be that picture of me dressed up as Charlie Chaplin from my Psycho review, but I had to change it after 4 different of my friends throughout, like, when I had my YouTube channel, were emailing me saying, dude, there's somebody on YouTube with your name dressed up as Hitler in his profile picture. I said, no, that's me, and that's Charlie Chaplin. My friends are idiots. I hope they're watching this. I want you guys to know you're idiots. I'm stupid. Anyway, City Lights. City Lights is a great movie. I love Charlie Chaplin in this movie. I thought the ending to this movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but it was very realistic, but also managed to be very happy. Similar to the Toy Story 4 ending, where it was like, yeah, that's realistic, but it was still a happy ending. I really liked City Lights. It was a really good movie. It was really funny. It was enjoyable. And yeah, I think the story was really good. It kind of inspired me to write a silent film of my own before I eventually dropped the project and was too lazy to work on it anymore. But I think City Lights is worth checking out. Next is Rushmore. This is like Wes Anderson's second movie, and I absolutely love Wes Anderson. He's my favorite director. He's really talented. He directs a lot of good movies. And this actually has like one of my favorite soundtracks out of any Wes Anderson movies. Like out of Wes Anderson's best soundtracks, like it would be Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou because it has a lot of like David Bowie covers. Um, Rushmore has a really good soundtrack, and Darjeeling Limited because it has a lot of songs by the Kinks, and the Kinks are my all-time favorite band. I love the Kinks. But Rushmore, I think this is a really good movie. I would recommend. This is like one of the movies I recommend like everyone see as much as I recommend Annie Hall. Like typically when anybody asks me for recommendations, if I don't know you too well, I'm gonna recommend you 4 movies. I'm gonna recommend you Rushmore because I think everyone needs to see it. I'm gonna recommend The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly because I think it's the greatest Western and a quintessential movie. I'm gonna recommend Annie Hall because I love Annie Hall. And I'm gonna recommend He's All That so that you can confidently say to everyone that you've seen the worst movie ever made. But yeah, Rushmore is awesome. I love this movie. I think Jason Schwartzman playing as his younger self was really good. And I think Bill Murray was really good. I really like Bill Murray in Wes Anderson's movies. And the story was really good. The comedy was hilarious. This is a really funny movie. Please, 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 pretty please watch Rushmore. If you have Prime Video, it's currently on Prime Video. I recommend checking it out because I love Rushmore. And finally is A Hard Day's Night with the Beatles. So what this movie's about is just 2 days in the life. No, not a day in the life by the Beatles. 2 days in the life of the Beatles. You see what I did there? That was a stupid pun. That was a stupid pun. A Hard Day's Night. So it's about 2 days in the life of the Beatles where they kind of have a lot of stress on them. Like they're looking after Paul McCartney's grandfather who gets himself in a lot of trouble. They have a concert coming up. Their manager is kind of breathing down their neck, or their tour manager is kind of breathing down their neck. And so they just kind of have a very stressful environment. But this is a very funny movie because if you've seen the Beatles, they're very funny.
What kind of girls do you prefer? My wife. What kind of girl do you like? John's wife. John, I told you not. That's a clown. Nobody likes a small guy.
And so is this movie. This movie's still very funny.
Come on, let's go and have some coffee and leave the kennel to Lassie. Hey, mister, can we have our ball back? Mister! Good ball! Mister! Keep going! We have our ball! Oh! Hey, mister! Oh, our ball!
And I really liked this movie. I thought the dialogue also was really good.
Hey, pardon me for asking, but who's that little old man?
What little old man?
That little old man.
Oh, that one, that's my grandfather.
Your grandfather?
Yeah.
That's not your grandfather.
It is, you know.
But I've seen your grandfather. He lives in your house.
Oh, that's my other grandfather, but he's my grandfather as well.
How do you reckon that one out?
Well, everyone's entitled to 2, aren't they? And it's my other one.
And yeah, I think this is a really good movie. Also, the soundtrack is really good for this movie. What this movie essentially is they took the entire soundtrack to A Hard Day, or not the soundtrack, the entire album of the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, and then used that as the soundtrack for this movie. And while I did know some of the songs like A Hard Day's Night, they also introduced me to some songs on that album that I didn't know about that I liked, like Tell Me Why, I'm Happy Just to Dance With You, and there's another that I can't remember the name of at the moment, but I really like the soundtrack to this movie, because I love the Beatles. I absolutely love the Beatles. And so A Hard Day's Night, really great movie. I highly recommend checking it out. And so, we're brought to Blu-ray of the month. But since all these Blu-rays are about half of November, technically this is really Blu-ray of half of the month. And since part 1 of November Blu-ray editions had a tie at 5th place, I only see it fitting to do the same for this month. At 5th place is a tie between Remember the Titans and Eddie the Eagle. Both of these are really uplifting movies, and both are top-tier sports movies. I recommend checking both of these out because they are really enjoyable and really well-made films. At 4th place is A Hard Day's Night. This is a really fun movie, a really funny movie. All the Beatles give great performances. The soundtrack is incredible, and this is a really well-written movie in terms of dialogue. I really like A Hard Day's Night and would recommend that you check it out. At 3rd place is City Lights. I think this is one of the only silent comedies that is as good as either Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times or Buster Keaton's The General. City Lights, The General, and Modern Times are, like, in my opinion, the 3 greatest silent comedies of all time. These are all great movies, and City Lights is amazing. Charlie Chaplin put a lot of work into directing this movie. Just read up about how much work he put into this movie. I heard somewhere he actually fired the main actress at one point and then rehired her later. That takes a lot of dedication. He put a lot of dedication into this movie, and it turned out being a great movie. At 2nd place is not You've Got Mail, but The Shop Around the Corner. I reviewed this movie. I gave it an A+. I called it a Christmas movie masterpiece. It's a great movie. And at 1st place, drumroll please, Rushmore. Rushmore is really good. I think this is one of Wes Anderson's best movies. It's really good. It's known as being Wes Anderson's first movie to really utilize his style that you still see nowadays that's very idiosyncratic. And I think Rushmore is, in my opinion, a perfect movie. Thank you very much for watching. Before you leave, why don't you tell me what your favorite of all of these movies was? You just saw mine, it was Rushmore. After you tell me about that, you can head on out. Stay safe and watch good movies. Bye!